I just designed a full inbound AI real estate voice agent team using n8n and Retell AI. So if you use this exact system here, you can literally earn business on autopilot. In this video, I'm going to show you a full AI voice agent team that responds to every single lead within minutes. And it doesn't matter if they're coming from ads, social media, or a website. So the reality of real estate can be brutal. In case you didn't know, conversion rates can be up to 8 times higher if you respond within the first 5 minutes. And at this point in 2025, if you're still doing everything manually, you're probably losing dozens of relationships and passing on thousands in lost deals. And with all the talk about voice agents in real estate lately, it's no wonder why they're so popular. This team I've built will sort all of your leads for you, have actual phone conversations with your high-value people to qualify and nurture them, and it'll follow up with every single lead with personalized emails made just for them. The goal here is to offer better service than everyone else in the game. That means showing leads that you care by being faster and more helpful than everybody else. So for everyone that doesn't know me, my name is Mike. I help business owners and people in real estate use AI to earn their time back and get more done so that they can focus on the things that actually matter. And today, if you stick around, I'll show you exactly how this AI real estate voice agent works in both Retell AI and n8n. But first, let's do a quick demo, then I'll take you through the whole build step by step. Alright guys, so here we are in Retell AI, and as promised, I'm going to take you through a super quick demo of this agent that I built right here. Now this agent already has some of my information, so when we get started with this conversation, she's already going to have an idea of what I'm looking for. So let's dial up this agent right now and start a conversation. Hello?
Hi, is this Mike?
Yes, this is.
Hey Mike, thanks for picking up. This is Melissa with the Sunset Group. I'm reaching out because you recently filled out a form from one of our ads about buying a home in Beverly Hills. Is now an okay time for a quick chat? It should only take a few minutes.
Yeah, that's actually okay.
Awesome, thanks Mike. I just want to ask a couple of quick questions to get a better sense of what you're looking for. First off, what's your general time frame for buying a home? Are you hoping to move in the next 3 to 6 months, or are you thinking further out?
You know, I've actually been looking for a while, but I'm at the point where I want to buy within the next 2 to 3 months, so I'm looking to move into something pretty soon here.
That's great to hear, Mike. 2 to 3 months is definitely a good window to start getting serious. Just to check, are you currently working exclusively with another real estate agent right now, or are you still searching on your own?
I'm actually just entering the real estate market right now, and I don't currently have an agent that I'm working with, but I would appreciate if you guys could help me out with that.
Perfect. Thanks for letting me know. We'd be happy to help you through the process. Have you had a chance to speak with a lender or bank yet about getting pre-approved for a mortgage, or is that something you're still planning to do? And just to confirm, you're mainly interested in Beverly Hills, right? Is that still your top choice, or are you open to other nearby areas as well?
Yeah, you know, I would prefer Beverly Hills. That is my #1 option, so that is going to definitely be my #1 focus. And as far as getting a loan, I actually do need some help with that. So if you guys could help me with pre-approval, that would be fantastic.
Thanks for sharing that, Mike. And no worries at all. Lots of buyers need a little guidance with the pre-approval process, and our team can definitely help you get started with that. So based on your timeline and where you're at, the best next step would be to set up a free consultation call with one of our home buying specialists. They can walk you through the Beverly Hills market, answer your questions, and help you get started with pre-approval. Would you be open to scheduling a quick call like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to talk to you guys and learn a little bit more about how I can get this process started.
Awesome, Mike. I'm glad to hear that. Let's get you set up for a call with one of our specialists. Is there a particular day or time in the next few days that works best for you? For example, do you prefer mornings, afternoons, or evenings?
Would you guys have any openings this Thursday at 11 a.m.?
Let me check real quick if we have any openings this Thursday at 11 a.m. for you, Mike. It looks like we don't have an opening exactly at 11 a.m. this Thursday, but we do have some nearby times available. On Thursday, we have slots open between 10 a.m. and 12 p.m. Would you like to pick a time within that window, maybe 10:30 a.m. or 11:30 a.m.? Just let me know what works best for you.
Yeah, could we actually do 10:30 if you guys have that one available?
Great, Mike. You're all set for your consultation call this Thursday at 10:30 a.m. You should get an email confirmation with all the details shortly. We're excited to help you get started on your home search in Beverly Hills. Oh, Mike, I just realized I'll need your email address to lock in the appointment and make sure you get the confirmation details. Could you share the best email for you? I'll get everything set up right away.
Yeah, thank you for catching that, by the way. My email is
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate you sharing that. I'll go ahead and book your consultation for this Thursday at 10:30 a.m. You'll get an email confirmation soon with all the details. We're really looking forward to helping you get started. You're all set for your consultation call this Thursday at 10:30 a.m., Mike. You should see an email confirmation coming your way soon with all the details. Before I let you go, do you have any other quick questions I can help answer right now?
That'll actually be all for now, Melissa. Thank you very much for your help, and I look forward to working with your team.
You're so welcome, Mike. We're really looking forward to helping you find your new home. Thanks again for your time, and have a fantastic rest of your day.
Alright, so that personalized voice call that you guys just saw was part 1 of the demo. On the back end of that, I also got this email from one of the other agents on my team. And this copy right here is actually personalized to that information that I submitted on that form. And this directly addresses the interest that I had in buying a home in Beverly Hills. As you can see from what I've entered right here under this interest category, the agent was able to use this information right here to personalize the email and the phone call for me. And I think the delivery here was excellent, especially considering that I was able to both talk to Melissa physically, as well as getting this nice little email from her. That just makes me feel like this entire team knows what I'm looking for and actually cares in providing that to me on time. Now you guys can pause this video and actually read through this email if you want to check it out further. But in the meantime, I actually want to take you guys through a little breakdown so you can understand exactly how this agent works on a deeper level, because there are quite a few moving parts to this and there is quite a bit to cover in this video. So let's take a quick look at how all of this actually works and why any of this is worth caring about in the first place. And by the way, if you happen to be in real estate or you own a business and you're curious about AI but you're not quite sure where to start, go ahead and hit my first link down in the description, fill out a super quick form, and I'll send you a personalized AI action plan for a specific problem you're going through completely for free. Or if you want to work directly with me one-on-one to build an AI solution out for your business, go ahead and click my second link down in the description, book us a call, and we'll have a private conversation. Anyways, let's get straight back into the video. Alright, so I hope you guys enjoyed that demo, and now that we've actually covered that, and you kind of have an idea of what we're actually trying to achieve here, let me take a quick second to show you how all of this fits together, and how the system actually looks on a really high level. So as I said, there are a few agents actually working under this team, and they are going to be working across both n8n and Retell AI to accomplish these goals of having a strong inbound system for all of these amazing leads that you have coming into your business. So in order to actually run this system, you're going to have to connect these AI agents to whatever method you're using to actually generate leads for your business. And there are many ways to do this, and this could be an entirely separate video on its own. And some quick examples of this could be, say for one, if you're running a paid ad campaign. Another could be if you have social media sites where you share content, or even run ads through those social media sites. And through some combination of methods, you actually have inbound leads either filling out a form or actually sending you DMs on a platform. Or you could also have some sort of form set up on your website or even elsewhere where people can fill out information as they express interest in whatever it is that you're offering. And in reality, all of these methods serve to collect the information from leads who are actually interested in doing business with you. And under normal circumstances, most businesses are going to be running at least one of these options at any given time. You could really connect this team of AI agents to just about any inbound lead system that you might have. So every time we actually receive any information from a new lead, it's actually going to get passed directly into our n8n automation. And this is going to be the beginning of our entire AI agent team. And in case you guys are wondering, this is what that team is actually going to look like on the n8n side of things. As you can see, we actually have a couple of agents here, and there are quite a few actions going on as a result of whatever these agents determine. And these agents are actually responsible for handling most of the back end for this entire agent team. I'm going to get into this a lot deeper in a moment here, but just for now, this team is what's determining who gets called and who simply gets a personalized follow-up email. And no matter what's happening, this entire flow will end every workflow by updating your team in Slack, just so that you guys can always stay on top of whatever's happening lead-wise. Now, as we said, this agent is actually going to get your info and then passing it through some qualifications in order to sort them, depending on whatever makes a high-quality lead for you. And depending on how that lead is qualified, the team will actually send them to a particular route, which will either lead to a phone call, it'll lead to a personalized email, and regardless of whether you call or send a personalized email, the workflow will actually end by updating your team that you've just got a new lead, just so that there isn't too much time in between the first touch point and the point which your team can actually get back to that person. Now, this is just the n8n side of things. If this agent team determines that this is a high quality lead, it's actually going to send that off to Retell AI in order to actually call that person and qualify them through a direct phone call right on the spot. And that's what you just saw in my demo. The agent called me and it had specific information based off of whatever I filled filled out in that form. And the goal here is to provide value upfront to people, answer any questions, and to also ask them a set of questions just to see how qualified they are up front. As you can see, Melissa was pretty happy to talk to me and was pretty enthusiastic to actually take me through that conversation. So as a brand new lead, I probably would be pretty happy to receive a phone call like that if I had expressed interest in doing business with a particular agency. And if you're able to talk to them with a direct voice agent, then that's really going to set you apart from everybody else who is also competing for your same leads. And finally, the goal here is to actually book somebody on an appointment, which the agent is able to do by having direct access to my calendar so that it can negotiate appointments to figure out what is and isn't available, and then finally to agree upon a date and time so that we can just directly book that lead into the calendar. And then from there, everything gets handed directly off to your team so that you can finish nurturing and building that relationship with that person and actually take them the rest of the way through that process by finding out what they need, providing the correct value that they need, and then actually converting that person into a paid client at the end of the day. And with all of that said, I hope you guys can understand how this actually works a little bit better and just what kind of value this really provides to businesses and people in real estate. Now let's actually go through this build step by step, starting with n8n, and then we'll move over into Retell AI so I can take you through how exactly this entire team of AI real estate voice agents works. All right, so there's quite a bit to cover in this video, but let's get started with the trigger for this entire automation. So for this, I am actually connecting this to my Airtable, and this is acting as my CRM in this case. I have a database set up here that has all of my inbound leads here, sorted by their first and last name along with their contact information, what category they fall into, as well as their interests and needs. Now these last two fields are actually for the AI to handle. The record ID and the status are actually helpful for the system to identify and update records once specific steps have been taken. Now you could use whatever CRM that you prefer here. The system could easily work if you're using HubSpot or Salesforce or whatever it is that you're really interested in. And this CRM right here is actually receiving all of this data from whatever inbound lead generation system you have. So every time someone fills out a form, from an ad, from your social media, or really from wherever you might be getting your inbound attention from, all of the information will be populated into this CRM here, and every new record will just trigger this automation. Now in n8n, this is actually an Airtable trigger that you can find just by searching for a new trigger here. If you search for Airtable, there's only one trigger option here, and this is the one that you're going to be using. It's called on new Airtable event, and basically what this is going to do is it's going to be watching for new events in Airtable according to a specific database, and every time that new event triggers, it's going to set off this entire automation. So let's open this up and actually see how that works. Now, in order to set this up, you're actually going to have to locate whatever Airtable database that you want to connect to. In my case, mine is called Sales Agent Memory. This is one that I had set up quite a while ago, so I already had my credentials set here. But if you guys aren't familiar with setting up a credential in Airtable, you're going to actually have to go into your Builder Hub and set up a credential there and select all of your necessary scopes. Now, I don't really have time to go through that in this video because I'm going to cover every other aspect of this development here, but there are plenty of tutorials on YouTube for how to get your Airtable credentials set up, so that's not too much of an issue. Now there's actually going to be a scheduling component for this trigger that actually gets it to work. And now under mode, you can actually set however many times you want this to run. In my case, I have it running every hour, but depending on how many leads you have coming in, you can even set it to every minute. Now this is highly dependent on whatever your use case is. If you're trying to really make a nice production where you're able to stay on top of all your inbound leads, then you'll probably want to set it to every minute. Now you're going to also have to set your base and your table IDs for this so that you can make sure that the correct base is actually triggering this automation. And both of these are very easy to find, by the way. All you have to do is go under your Airtable and actually go to the database that you want to be working from. If you take a look at your URL, it actually has all of this information for you. So your base ID is actually going to be this section right here that starts with app. And I've just highlighted that for you so that you guys can see that a little clearer. But all you have to do is copy that little section and then paste that into your base ID. And then to find your table ID, you're going to actually just look a little bit further down your URL. And there's going to be another section that begins with TBL. And you're just going to highlight that section right there in between the two slashes and then paste that into your table ID. Now, once you have both of those things, you should be able to connect to the right table within the right base. From there, you're actually going to want to make sure that you're triggering this by a certain field. So in my case, I just selected first name here. Every time a new record is created, it's going to be watching this first name category, and whenever that gets filled out with new information, it triggers the entire automation. So first up, we're actually going to be routing this down two pathways, and this is going to be what determines which AI agents handle each lead and whether or not that lead actually gets called. Now, you could set this up any way that you want in order to prioritize what leads you're getting, but just to keep everything very simple for this demo, I just have it set to buyers and sellers. For every buyer that comes in, they're going to be getting called by our agent, because for whatever reason, my hypothetical agency here specializes in buyers and wants to give them special treatment. You can categorize this however you want to, and you can really use this to make sure that any category of leads coming in gets that special service, just so that you can be extra sure that they convert into clients. Now we actually have an if logic block here connected to our Airtable trigger, and there's only one condition in this block. The function right here, I've actually taken the variable right here where it says buy or sell, and that actually is connected to this category right here in my Airtable database. The purpose of this category right here is to route people to different pathways depending on what their goal is. All I had to do is pick up this variable right here and then click and drag that into my condition field. Now, since we're routing for buyers here, you're going to want to make sure that you configure this to make sure that this field right here is equal to buy. And in order to do that, you're actually going to come into your center category. You're going to select string and then come down to is equal to. And then from there, you could just manually type in buy in this final third category. And this if logic should be able to route all of your clients depending on whether they're buyers or sellers. Now, as I said, you could make this a lot more advanced. You could have an AI step set in here to actually be able to break things down further. But again, for this demo, I just wanted to keep this part simple so that we can focus more on the actual agent side of things. Now, here's where things actually get interesting. I have two agents set up here. This first one right here is actually going to be the one that handles high priority leads. If the lead that just came into our CRM is categorized as a buyer, we'll be making them that personalized call according to the information that we just received in our database. And then after that call is finished, we'll pass it on to a email specialist agent, which will draft a personalized email for that person just to follow up with them and create another touch point. Then it'll update to status here in Airtable to email sent, as you can see here. And then finally, it'll end by notifying your team on Slack that, hey, you guys have a new lead and they're ready to be followed up with. Now, your second pathway is going to be very similar to that, but this is going to be for people who are categorized as sellers. All of this stuff is going to be pretty much the same, except it's not going to have the Retell AI step in between. Our sellers are still going to get their personalized email, their status will be updated in the Airtable, and then your team will be notified in Slack about the new lead. Now let's actually get into the exciting part of this, which is the voice agent. Now we're going to set this up by making a call to Retell AI using an HTTP request. And again, you could just find that by coming here and searching for HTTP, and you guys should be able to just pull that up and then add it to your workflow. Now, in order to do this, you're going to have to set up quite a few things here, but it's not too difficult to do. Now, in order to get this going, you're actually going to need to come into Retell AI and make a brand new agent. And until you have your agent created, you won't be able to actually send a request to it to get it connected. So if you haven't done this before, you're going to simply come over here to create an agent. And then for the agent that I'm going to be teaching you guys how to make today, it's going to be a single prompt agent. Now, there are going to be a few templates to choose from here, but you guys can just start from blank and then create the agent from scratch here. Now, as you can see here, there are quite a few categories to fill out, so let's actually get into this. So in order to make this call, we're actually going to be sending a post request out to Retell AI. Now, for the rest of this information, you're going to actually have to come into Retell AI's docs. Now, once you're in the documentation, you're going to find this tab right here that says API reference, and this is going to be where we're going to be doing most of our work. So we're going to be actually sending a call out here. So you're going to come down onto the left-hand side and actually select this first option that says post and create phone call. You could find that URL by coming right here on the right-hand side, and under this first block, make sure that you select the curl option. The URL is actually going to be this one right here that says URL. So you're just going to copy this exactly as it is and then paste that into your URL section here. Now you could fill all of the rest of this stuff out manually if you really want to, but the better way to do this is actually to come in here and then copy this entire curl command right here. And then from there, you could come back into your HTTP request, click on this button right here, and then just paste that entire curl command right there. As soon as you press import, it'll auto-populate all of this information so that you don't actually have to come in here and do it manually. It'll make things way easier for you to do it that way. It'll insert all of this for you. Now, because we're actually using JSON here, we're going to actually have to update a couple of things in here just to make sure that our agent works. You're going to have to update a few things in here. The first is actually going to be the from number, which is right here. And by the way, all of this information should be auto-populated from this curl that you just imported, so you shouldn't have to worry about that. So your from number is actually going to be the number that the agent is assigned to. And you're going to actually have to purchase a number for this agent if you want it to function, which means you're going to have to actually go through a service like Twilio and then actually set the agent up with a number. Next up, for the to number, this is actually going to be the number that we're calling. So this is going to be the number that the agent will be calling for each individual lead. You could come down here under your Airtable trigger, you can locate phone number, and then again, just drag that and drop that into the field right here that says to number. Next, for your override agent ID, you're actually going to want to replace this right here with your actual agent ID. And you can find that here in your Retell dashboard. if you go under the agent you just created and then copy this agent ID that you have right here in this first category. Just make sure you paste that in right there so that you can actually get connected to the agent you just made. Now the rest of the things that we're going to be changing here are actually going to be dynamic variables. The first is going to be our customer name, and the second is going to be our interests and needs. And again, you could find this by coming under your Airtable trigger. You could find your customer name right here under first name, and again, just click that and then drop it in between the quotation marks here under customer name. Do the same thing for your interests and needs. Come down again to your Airtable trigger and then find the variable that says interests and needs, and just click and drop that into that same field right there. And this is just how all the data is being transferred over. So as long as you follow those instructions right there, you should be good to go with your HTTP request here. And now that we've actually set up that agent, let's actually go into Retell itself and actually go through how I've set up this entire voice agent. All right, so if you've been following along so far, you should have an agent created by now. First thing you want to always do is go ahead and name your agent just so that you can keep track of what's going on here. And now under these settings right here, you don't really have to worry about too much. You can play around with what model you actually want this agent to be running off of. GPT 4.1. It's pretty cheap to run. As you can see here, it only costs about 4 cents per minute. You could play around with some of these other comparable models like 4.0 or 4.1 mini. You could even try to use Claude 3.7 or 3.5 if it works for you. Now your second category up here is actually going to be the voice that your agent is working with. And you can see how many options there are in here. Now for the one that I'm using right here is just Chloe. And this is really just a personal preference. You could find whoever it is that fits your brand and your use case as much as possible. And to actually get this agent started right here, we have a little welcome message right here down at the bottom. And the way that I have mine set up right here is where the user initiates. In other words, I was the one who said hello first as the lead, as opposed to the AI agent starting the conversation. You could have either the AI initiate or the user initiate. I have the user initiating because the AI is going to be the one who's creating the call in the first place. Now the main thing going on for this agent is going to be, of course, our prompt, and I also have a few functions set up with this agent. There's no need to worry about any of this other stuff for this particular video. Most of my backend and functionality is going to be taking place in n8n itself. Now I'll admit that this is a pretty massive prompt that I have in here. If you guys actually want to get access to this, just let me know down in the comments and I'll create a Notion page or something and then give you guys access to it. I'll be going through it pretty quick, but you can pause the screen for each section and actually take a moment to read it yourself if you want to. Now, as we said before, this is an inbound agent for a hypothetical real estate agency called the Sunset Group. I have this prompt divided into several categories in a very similar way to the prompts that I've written before on this channel, if you guys have followed me for any period of time. And this tends to be pretty standard for the industry as well. So if you follow the same practice here, your agent should function pretty nicely. So as I said, there is quite a few things to get through with this prompt. So let me just take you through section by section and then we can go from there. The first thing that I have here is the role. And for here, I've just established that this agent is Melissa, which is a charming inbound agent working for the Sunset Group. I've just made sure that this agent knows that everyone it's speaking with is an inbound lead who filled out a contact form, and it's vital that you treat them with kindness and respect. I've instructed this agent that your job is to be personal, friendly, and helpful as you qualify each lead to determine if they're a good fit for us to do business with. And I've actually kept the role pretty simple here because the rest of the prompt actually explains our expectations a lot more in depth here. So for our context, this is actually going to be a very important section to include here, and this is actually where I'm going to be passing both the name and the background info as variables into this AI agent. You'll remember that we actually included these within our n8n automation here. And if you come back into your HTTP request, you can scroll down into your JSON section and actually open that up for a second. Now what you'll see here is that this customer name and the interest needs have to be spelled exactly the same as these variables right here. We have customer underscore name and interest underscore needs. Now this is both case sensitive and spelling sensitive, so you have to just make sure that whatever you put within these double curly brackets is exactly the same from both sources. And this is what's going to be allowing us to personalize each call, so this is definitely an important step to include. Now, next up, we have our task here. What I'm essentially doing here is I'm instructing the agent that each conversation is geared towards qualifying people using a set of questions to determine their readiness and fit for working with the agency. And the goal here is actually to determine if the lead is qualified and then to get them booked on a consultation call. As for each question, I've numbered all of the questions that I'm asking and included bullet points for both the yes and the no pathways. So the first step here is to just confirm that the user is who you think they are. If you remember back to our demo, you'll remember that the agent actually opened up by asking, "Hi, is this Mike?" And after I said yes, it was able to actually proceed with this conversation. And that's generally the best way to start conversations like this, just to make sure that you're talking to the right person and that you don't start getting into conversations if you accidentally get the wrong number. And again, I'm going to go through this kind of fast just because it's kind of a big prompt, but again, you can pause the screen here and read through this if you want to. So step 2 is to actually ask about their timeline for purchasing a home. If their timeline is relatively short term, like 6 to 9 months or less, then I've instructed the agent to just proceed to step 3. Now, if their timeline is more long-term, or if the person seems kind of unsure about whether or not they want to buy a house soon, I've instructed the agent to just connect with them later on if they don't seem too interested. But if they still are interested, then the agent can still proceed to step 3 and also make a note that they might not be ready to buy within a short period of time. And now if the lead is disqualified at this point, the agent could just proceed to step 8 and then just end the conversation. Now step 3 is to ask if the lead is working with another real estate agent. If they're not, you can proceed to step 4. And if yes, the agent actually needs to explain to them that the agency policy doesn't allow them to actually work with 2 real estate agents at the same time. So in that case, the lead will be disqualified and you just move to the end of the conversation. Now step 4, ask if they've already spoken with a lender or a bank about pre-approval. And for this section, it doesn't really matter if they're pre-approved or not. As long as they're interested, they're still a qualified lead and we can proceed to step 5 regardless of what their answer is here. And I've included an optional step right here, is to briefly confirm the location that the person is interested in, just to make sure that the agent and the lead are both on the same page here. Step 5 is based off of their timeline and readiness. Determine if they're willing to book in a free consultation or not at this point in time, and just make it clear that the purpose of this is to discuss that person's needs, the market, or how the agency can help them. Now, of course, if they accept, we'll move to step 6, and if they decline, I've just instructed the agent to politely thank them and let them know that the agency is still here to answer any questions or if they happen to change their mind in the future. Now, if they actually accept and are interested in booking a call here, I actually want the agent to check the current time, which in my case, I'm in the Los Angeles West Coast time zone. But for you, you could switch this out for whatever time zone you're in, just to make sure that your agent is getting the time correct. Then ask what date and time works best for them, and then make sure that you use the check availability function to check for openings based off of whenever their request might be. Now this actually allows the agent to negotiate times. As you saw within the demo, the original time I requested wasn't available, so the agent had to go back and check and then rebook me into a slot that was near what I requested so that it can actually finish the call and then qualify me as a lead. I just reinforced here saying that if the availability exists, move on to step 7. If there's availability for a nearby time, just let the user know about that and then move on to step 7 if they happen to agree to one. And finally, if there is no availability for any of these times, use the check availability function, which I'll go through here in a minute, to actually keep going back and forth until we can agree on something. Now step 7 is to confirm the date and time for the call and then proceed once the user has verbally agreed to that being what they want to do. If yes, use the book appointment function to book that appointment for them. And then of course let them know that their appointment has been successfully scheduled and mention that they'll receive an email soon to follow up with this. The last thing we're going to do in this flow is to actually ask them if they have any other questions they need help answering. If they don't, then you can politely just thank them for their time, express some excitement about helping them, and then just end the call right there. These instructions are pretty specific and it allowed the agent, as you saw in the demo, to actually follow through the entire qualification process. And just to reinforce this even farther, I've included an example conversation here. And again, you guys can pause the video just to see how this plays out. If you watch the demo in the beginning, this is going to be very similar to what you heard there, but because this is an AI assistant, it's actually going to be changing things up a little here and there, just like a human would. And for the most part, if you're using a good quality AI model here, it's going to be pretty accurate. Now, I finished this prompt out with actually having some conversation guidelines here and some quick rules to follow. All of these are basically telling the agent how to act more like a human so that you can build rapport better with the leads themselves and provide a better user experience to everyone. As for these rules, this is just some quick housekeeping stuff just to make sure that the agent stays accurate and doesn't do anything that it wasn't prompted to do. It instructs the agent on how to use all of these functions, gives them some instructions on how to actually negotiate back and forth with leads when it comes to booking a call, and it kind of handles some of these in-between errors if there's any issues with the transcription. Then it just kind of finishes out by making sure to make it clear that it's not okay to provide any incorrect or misleading information. So with that about covers the entire prompt for this voice agent. And now that we've actually covered that, we can actually get into these few functions here, and I can show you how to set those up here within Retell. Alright, so there are actually 3 functions that I'm using with this agent. I have a end call function, a book appointment function, and then a check availability function. Now, one of the good things about Retell is you can actually build all of these directly within the platform without actually having to connect to something like n8n. And a lot of these are actually built in too. So for example, the end call function, all you have to do is simply add that from the drop down here, and you don't have to do anything to set that up. Now for our book appointment function, it's going to be very similar. All you're going to have to do is come down here under add, and then add a book on the calendar option. Now, once you're in here, this is actually going to be connecting to cal.com, which I have open in a separate tab right here. I've connected it to this 15-minute meeting event right here. And in order to do that, you actually have to set up an API key and then enter the event ID for the event that you want to schedule people with. For your API key, you're going to want to come all the way down to the bottom here where it says settings. Click on API keys there on the left-hand side. And then all you have to do is come up here and then click add for a new API key. And from there, you can choose how long it lasts for. And in my case, I just set it to expire in a month, but you can also set this to never expire if you never want to have to worry about renewing it. Now from there, you're going to simply copy your API key from Cal and then just paste that right in here. Now for your event ID, this is actually very easy to find. All you're going to do is come under your actual event here in Cal, make sure that you're actually selected on the one that you want to work with. Now, just like what we did with Airtable, you're going to come up to your URL here. You're going to select this string of numbers in between the slash after types and the question mark just before tab, and then just paste that under your event type ID. And with that, you should be completely ready to go with your Cal, and assuming you've included the function within your prompt, the agent should have direct access to it. The last function that we're adding to this voice agent is a check availability function. And again, you're going to click add under functions, come down to check calendar availability. We're going to have an identical setup to our book appointment function. You're going to follow those exact same instructions by putting your same API key in and your same event type ID. Now your description is optional for both of these, so you can include that if you want to, or you can exclude it assuming that your prompt is strong. Now when you're testing your agent, you can come over here onto the right hand side and you can either do what I did, which is test the audio by clicking this test button right here to actually talk with your agent in real time, or you can come over here to this other tab that says test LLM and you can actually have a ChatGPT style conversation with the agent without actually using the voice capability. Now the prompt itself is sort of the main magic behind the way that this voice agent works, so that was the main focus of this part of the video. Now we're going to actually move back into n8n and take a look at the other two agents that work in this team, and I'll show you guys exactly how to set those up too so we can complete this workflow and create an amazing inbound system for your leads. All right, so we're back in n8n now, and we're actually going to take a look at the rest of this workflow. As we just went through, this HTTP right here is actually making a call to Retell, which is passing it off into this first AI email agent and then routing it off to the rest of the workflow. Now, both of these are going to be pretty much the same setup, but there are a couple of minor differences just because one is dealing with buyers and the other is dealing with sellers. So let me actually take you through one of these workflows so that you can understand how both of them work, and then we can go through some of the minor differences that happen later on. So again, here's our seller agent, and let me show you how I've set this one up. So for this AI agent, when you're first setting this up, you're going to have to change your source for prompt from connected chat trigger node to define below. Once you click define below, you'll have this prompt user message pop up. And from here, I've actually included a custom user message in addition to a system prompt here. So the only thing I've said, and I've kept this very simple, that you're speaking to a new lead entering our real estate agency via a marketing funnel. They're looking to sell their home, and I need you to compose a friendly, personalized email to greet them and let them know that we'll be in touch shortly. See your system prompt for instructions. And this is basically just instructing the agent on how to act. And then under options here, this system prompt that I've added is going to go a lot deeper into how I want this agent to behave and exactly how I'm instructing it to write these personalized emails. All right, so this is a far simpler prompt than what you just saw in our voice agent, but the structure is going to be somewhat similar. Let me actually take you through this really quick so that you guys can understand how this agent is operating. As for role, I've instructed the agent to be a helpful email assistant who excels at communicating with inbound real estate leads who are looking to sell their properties. Your job is to compose charming, human-like emails to build rapport and establish personal connections with our new leads. The details for your process can be found below. And for our task, I've actually included a couple of variables here. And in my instructions, I just clarified that you are speaking to, and then for the name variable, I've come down here under our Airtable trigger, located that first name variable, then just clicked and dragged that into that field right there. Now the previous node hasn't actually been run, so we don't have a preview going on here, but for the purposes of this demo, you guys can still see how I've set this up. I've included that you are speaking to name, who's shown interest in selling a property. Here's some background info to help you personalize your message. And for here, I've inserted the interests and needs from this variable right here. And then once again, just click and drag that into that sentence, and then you should be good to go there. Now I've also included a couple of steps to actually help this agent run. I've instructed it to use the send email tool to compose a personalized email based off of the following instructions. The first is to address the lead by name and use the information you have to generate an email showing you know them. Be personable and relatable yet professional. Step 2 is let them know that we have their info and are looking forward to getting into contact soon to help more about their property sale. And if you really want to, like the voice agent prompt, you can include an example section within this prompt to let the agent know exactly how to generate personalized emails to give them sort of a guideline to follow here. I was able to make this work pretty well without an example, but you can play around with it either way. Finally, under my notes section, I've just finished this out by saying your email should be between 5 and 10 sentences in length. Always speak in a casual conversational tone and make a point of letting the lead feel welcome, but avoid cliches and generic language. Now this is a relatively simple prompt for writing a personalized email, and because we're actually able to detail these instructions and include a couple of these variables for the agent to work with, we're able to get a pretty good result out of this. We're still able to leave it at a point that's highly customizable and pretty easy to work with. Now that's about it for the actual prompt behind our email agent. And to actually get this to work, I also have this set up with my Gemini chat model as usual, but you can also set this up with ChatGPT or with Claude or whatever AI provider that you prefer. And these are actually very easy to set up. All you have to do is just get your credential in and then select whatever model you want to play with. Now, as I mentioned before, this AI agent also has access to an email tool. This is what it's going to be using to actually get that email info out and get it sent to our prospect. Now, for your send email tool, you're going to actually connect that with your Gmail credential just like you usually would. Leave your tool description to set automatically, and then your resource will be message. Operation is going to be send. Now, for your to email, you actually can have the agent identify this for you if you want to, which would make things pretty easy. Or you could do what I did here, which was actually run those previous modules and then select the email field from your Airtable trigger and then just drag that into this field here. Now for the subject and the message, you want to make sure you define both of those by the models, so the AI agent can be the one who's generating those emails based off of the system prompt and those variables that we just gave it. Now the email type itself is going to be set to text instead of HTML. And under message, there'll be a little option right here that says description, and you'll be able to actually open that up as a little prompt window. And here I've just included to sign off as Melissa with client services from the Sunset Group. And as you saw in my email, that is how she signs off, and it just makes things a little bit more personal, and it just kind of makes the user experience a little bit more smooth. And speaking of user experience, I also added this option at the bottom, which is append n8n attribution. You can add this option and then select this toggle to off so that every time you send an email, it doesn't automatically say that this email was generated by n8n. And once again, this is just a preference for making a better user experience, but it's also an optional step. Now from there, we're actually going to update our Airtable status as you saw within our database here. Every time we get that email sent out successfully, we want to update the status column to email sent just to keep our data organized. Now within this node itself, we're going to have an Airtable connection just like the one that we made at the beginning of this video. You're going to set it up with the same database, but this time we're not working with the trigger, we're actually working with an Airtable tool. Now in this case, our resource is going to be record, and the operation is going to be create or update. Obviously, you're going to select the Airtable database that you've been working with this whole time, and you're also going to assign the correct table that contains all of your inbound leads, just like I showed you right here a second ago. Make sure that you have the correct database name and also the correct table name. Then make sure your mapping mode is set to map manually, and we're actually looking in this case to match based off of the first name. This is what's going to allow us to know which record needs to be updated. So you'll actually have a drop-down menu here to select whatever column you want to be matching by. I just use first name just because it's pretty easy to work with, but you can select any of these that you prefer to use. Now under these values to update, the first one that will show up will be the column that you actually selected to match by. And from here, you're going to just drop in the first name right here under your Airtable trigger. And once you put that variable into that category right there, the system will be able to identify each column by the first names so that it can match that and then update your status. Now you can leave all of these blank except for the status at the bottom here, which is the one that we actually want to update. And make sure that you have that set to email sent, which at least is what it is in my case, because that's how I want to be updating the status column. Now once you have all of those settings in place, that should be about it for updating the Airtable status after we send our emails. The last thing for this workflow is to notify the team that they have a new lead coming in. I actually have a Slack tool which is posting a message to a particular channel. Now just like before, we're going to be setting up our Slack credential, and for Slack in particular, there are a few extra steps that go into actually setting this up with n8n, at least the last time that I checked. And there are some YouTube tutorials to actually take you through that if you're having any issues getting that connected. Once you've established your connection for Slack, you're going to want to set your resource to message, your operation to send. Now you can actually select to send your message to either user or a channel depending on whether you're talking to an individual or to a team. In my case, I just have it set to user, but if you're working with a team, then you'll probably want to select that to channel. Now under your next category, you want to select which channel or which user you actually want to send that message to. And in my case, I have it set to a AI Slack agent, and this is where all of the messages are going to be sent and received. And under message type, you're going to want to just set that to simple text message. And within here, you'll actually be able to set up your message type and compose that however you want that to be set up. I have some static text along with a couple of variables in here. So I've just said, hi team, we've got a new lead named, and then I've inserted the first name lead variable right there, which is pretty much the same thing I showed you guys earlier, which is going to be within your Airtable trigger. You're going to simply scroll down here to your first name and then just drop that right in there. Anyways, we've got a new lead named Mike who's looking to sell his place. I've just sent him an email on our behalf, so it's your turn to get him warmed up. Be sure to reach out as soon as possible. His email is, and then I've inputted the email variable in case anybody's ready now. Then I've ended by saying good luck guys and then signing off as Melissa. Now of course you can set this up in any way you want, and if you really wanted to, you could also add an AI step in here to generate this message more dynamically, but just to keep things simple, having a static text message with a couple of variables is generally enough to get the point across. Now, as I said, both of these workflows are going to be pretty much the same, but there are a couple of variations when it comes to how we're going to be prompting this agent here. Because we're going to be dealing with our more high priority leads, I've actually changed this prompt right here to accommodate the fact that we're actually dealing with a buyer as opposed to a seller. So I've just changed this prompt right here in a couple of areas, and the key one being right here where I said you're communicating with an inbound real estate lead who's looking to buy properties. I've also made sure to mention here that the lead has been spoken to on the phone, so you'll be responsible for sending a follow-up email. And again, I've just included the same variables below within the task section. The steps are going to be pretty much the same. And again, you can include an example here if you really want to, but you don't really need to if you want to keep this prompt simple and still be able to get a pretty reliable result here. Now, because most of the changes are being taken care of within the system prompt, this email tool, as well as the Airtable status update tool and the Slack tool are going to be pretty much the same setup that you guys just saw within this first workflow. So if you want to see that again, you can just rewind the video and check out how I set those up again. The only thing I changed here was in the final Slack message. I composed it a little bit differently just to make sure that I clarify that the person is looking to buy a new place as opposed to sell a new place. But aside from that, I've also said that I've just talked to him and sent him a quick email on our behalf. And again, this is just a very simple variation based off of who we're talking about here. And I've just inserted the same variables in here just to make sure that everything is as clean and consistent as it was before. All right, so that about wraps up this entire video of this AI inbound voice agent team for real estate. And we did cover quite a bit in this video, from system prompts to organizing this entire workflow and coordinating 3 agents to work together to handle inbound leads, voice calls, and sending out personalized emails while notifying our team of every single new lead that comes into our business. Now, if you made it all the way to the end of this video, I appreciate you for watching. I hope you guys got some value out of this one. And again, this can be an extremely valuable use case for so many businesses, both in and out of real estate, who have issues handling leads and who want to increase the ability to build relationships, follow up quickly, and just have a really smart and robust system to be handling their lead gen and their follow-up systems. By the way, if you own a business or you are in real estate and you're interested in learning a little bit more about AI, you can go down to my description and hit that first link, and I'll send you that custom AI action plan completely for free if you're interested in that. And as always, you can also book a direct one-on-one personal call with me so that we can have a private conversation if you have a specific AI solution or a specific problem that you have in your business and you're interested in exploring AI for that. Now, feel free to let me know down in the comments if you have any questions, and I would also appreciate it if you guys would consider dropping a like and subscribe down below if you enjoy this type of content. So with all of that said, thank you guys again for watching. Be sure to stay tuned for more content like this, and I will catch you all in the next one.